Hey everybody, it's Rick Trummer from Rick Trummer Consulting and Training, and this is the second video that we're putting in. What my plan is to do is for the next 30 days, we're going to launch a bunch of different videos out there talking about color management, how to get into certain things inside Photoshop, how to deal with some certain business things. We're going to have a wide variety of different things going on, but we're starting this entire video series yesterday with how to set up your computer for color. So we went through all of those different settings, and then we had some people responding back, which I really appreciated, asking, well, what happens if you don't work with a lab? What happens then? Well, if you don't work with a lab and you have an entire workflow system, you're working a closed loop system, you know all of the inner workings of your machines. We can talk about how to calibrate all of that stuff together. But if you have something like that, you'll want to set your computer up or your workflow up to Adobe RGB. But here's the glitch to that. Only if your monitors can handle the Adobe RGB workspace. That's the problem with what's going on out there. The majority of the world's monitors, 80% of the world's monitors, do not handle the Adobe RGB color space. So when folks are out there telling you to go into Adobe RGB, that is kind of a flaw, because when you get something coming back from the lab, or if you're printing something and all of a sudden it looks red, that's the first color to go out of gamut when you're working inside an Adobe RGB color space and other things are set up to sRGB. So if your monitor can't see the full Adobe spectrum, then what happens is you won't be able to see all of the problems that arise with colors being out of gamut, because the monitor will actually just dumb it down, or that file down, so it looks proper on the computer, and when you print it, that's when you're going to find the problem. So my recommendation is, if you are buying a lesser expensive monitor, but you are working inside of your own workflow system where you have it, I would just set it up to Adobe sRGB, excuse me. So set it up to sRGB. Just take care of just set everything to its closest common denominator. And it just makes sense that you're not going to use a space that's just larger than what you can do. All of the monitors out there, especially with laptops, and I know a lot of you are working with laptops, all of those are sRGB monitors, so you can't see the full color spectrum, and that creates the problem in the end result. I have a number of people that call me up and say, Rick, I don't know what's going on. Everything looks red. What do I do? And then once we delve into it, we realize that the color space was set up wrong, and of course their monitors are not seeing those problems, and that's where the problems start. And so we can fix them very easily if we know what's going on, but we have to be able to know how to get there. So what do we do once we have that monitor, whatever we're going to be doing? Well, we have to profile that monitor first. So I have my favorite recommendations for devices. I prefer the X-Rite systems. For me, the X-Rite systems really tell the great story, and they do everything that we need it to do. Your calibration device, whether it be a spectrometer or a colorimeter, and the most common ones are colorimeters, and those are a lot of the things that do just simple monitors. And a colorimeter basically is something that requires light to be seen. So when your monitor lights up, that's a lighted object, and the colorimeter does not emit its own light. A spectrometer does. So colorimeters are designed to do monitors, and let's say if you're using a projector, they do that. Television screens can be calibrated with a colorimeter. Those are the most common and the lesser expensive models that are out there. My recommendation is go with the Color Monkey display. I really like that. I do like the i1 display Pro that they have. That's a really nice piece of equipment, and it works really nice. If you're a Spider fan, that's okay. They have their monitors, or their colorimeters and their spectrometers as well, and they do a great job. That was the first one that I actually ever purchased. I purchased a Spider, and then I moved on to X-Rite because of all of the different things that they have inside there. We're going to be talking about the Color Checker Passport and all of these other things in later videos that are going to be coming in, like I said, the next month. I'm going to be pushing out a lot of videos that are coming out in the next month. So buy the display that works best for you, or the colorimeter that works best for you. But you have to make sure that it has three things. The first thing that it has to do is it has to be able to calculate for your white point, and all colorimeters do that. Okay, you got to be able to do that. Number two is it calculates for gamma. That's the range of contrast that you're going to be dealing with. That's the second item. The last item is not as common. It's the luminosity of your screen, and it has to calculate luminosity. If those three things are working together, just like ISO, f-stop, and shutter speed work with your camera, white point, gamma, and luminance work on your computer monitors. So it has to do all three of those things. The lesser expensive models take out the idea of being able to do luminance, and that's where some of the troubles can begin when you're out there and you're getting stuff back from the lab and it's too dark or it's too light. It just means that your monitor is set up incorrectly for those types of things. So for me, X-Rite is probably the one company that I would be looking at if you're going to buy a colorimeter out there. I just think they're fabulous. Okay, so we've gotten that taken care of. So where do we set our monitor up to? How do we set those standards? Well, what I've done here is I've listed some calibration starting points when you're working with a lab. And basically what you want to do is you want to go to 6,500 degrees, 2.2 gamma at 120 looms. That's the default setting that you're going to want to set it up to. Now, as you are out there, and let's say you're working with Mac computers. For me, Mac computers, you want to start with 100 looms, but I'll bet most times you're going to end up at 90 looms. So instead of setting the default at 120 looms, I would set it up to 100 looms to start, and you're probably, like I said, going to end up at 90 looms. And that's what I find all Mac. And I've done thousands of calibrations across the country. So this is just kind of a starting point that I think you're going to be at. Again, the difference between 120 looms and 100 looms is so slight, but you might be able to see those differences. If you're somebody that really, really looks for different color mechanisms and you're really, really tight on your color, I would definitely do that. The last thing is, as you get closer to a dark room, as you get closer to what they consider a perfect calibrated room where the walls are 18% gray, you're always wearing black shirt when you're doing your color adjustments, you want to move closer to 5,000 degrees. So as soon as that window gets pulled out of that room that you're working in, and maybe you're working in a closed room, you have no windows in there, I would start looking at getting this set closer to 5,000 degrees. A lot of you may already be at 5,000 degrees, but in a perfect environment, you're going to be setting up to 5,000 degrees, 2.2 gamma, and probably right around 100 looms, 110 looms. That's probably where you're going to end up if you're in a perfect situation. But for the most part, you're going to start right up here doing those initial color settings that I asked to start point. You may find yourself moving a little bit here and there from those points as you get prints back from the lab and you're looking at the different adjustments. But for the most part, you're going to be pretty much starting at that point. You can always call me, and I would be more than happy to work that out. You can get a hold of me at a lot of the different numbers that are posted here. If you're having problems touching base with me, just reach out via Facebook or one of my other socials medias that I'm using, and I'll be more than happy to help you out with some of your color adjustments that you have. Keep in mind that we have a lot of different basic training courses. We have professional training courses. We have a bunch of other videos that are inside of our ricktrummer.com website. You can always go there for a lot of answers. And as you can see right from the question and answer page, there's a bunch of different information on light meters and why I think they're really important. Using the color checker passport, I've got an article on there about that. I do take questions and answers that I'll answer out as you are asking those questions. I talk about color devices and different things that are out there. And so this is kind of an area that you'll be able to go into and get a lot of different information for a lot of your stuff. Keep in mind that our training courses are starting in December again. We'll have another set of round of courses that go in January. And then again, we're going to be taking February off this year, but we'll start again heavily in March. So until next time, until tomorrow with our next installment of the video, I'm Rick Trummer from Rick Trummer Consulting and Training. I hope you enjoyed this video. The second of many that are going to be coming out.